All right, welcome to another edition of the Ashmore Law Firm Google Plus Hangout, the most informative law firm in the entire universe. That's what I'm declaring now. I can say that since they've done a bunch of Google Hangouts now. They're pros at this, right, everybody?
Right, right.
Panel today, Gary Ashmore, raise your hand. Amy Tarnum, Lori Ashmore Peters, Christy Gray, myself, Chris Yates, and Keith Knox as well is on. If you are watching this live, you can also hashtag AskAshmore, and we'll try and get questions to you. Today, the Hangout's about what you need to know before filing for divorce. Don't think you're getting just 50%, folks. It's tricky out there. So you better know what you're doing before you go for a divorce. We're going to throw it first over to Amy and Gary. Let's talk about some of the things. Y'all picked out some interesting points. We'll go over some of them. And then at the end of this hangout, we're going to do a thing called myth, what a myth is, and then we're going to give what the fact is. And I like that game a lot. So first, let's talk about, a lot of people are curious about going through a divorce. What are we talking about? How much money are we looking about on average?
Oh, man. On average, a contested divorce where the parties are not in agreement, that averages more than $10,000 in legal fees for each spouse.
Wow. So we're looking at $20,000 total.
Yes, and we've seen them upwards of that. I mean, there's been several divorces, highly contested divorces, that are upwards of $10,000 for each spouse.
But typically the filing fees are not that expensive. Give people an idea of what we're looking at there.
Yeah, no, to get started, if somebody wants, to do a divorce amicably and they want to go down and file for divorce, filing fees only run you around $300 to get the divorce started. And then there's just several different ways you can go about it amicably to save yourself that.
How important do you all think it is, Gary? Same this question is to you as well. How important is it to know these facts before you just say, you know what, that's it, I'm done? And because a lot of people let emotions, I think, and feelings get in the way of common sense, and they just say, that's it, I'm filing for divorce. It's almost smart to learn these facts beforehand, don't you think?
Well, yeah, the biggest thing that I would say to the general public or any potential client that comes in is before filing for divorce, you need to understand the process. You need to have an attorney explain to you what you're about to go through, because even though clients come in and say it's going to be amicable, we're going to agree on everything, that very seldom is the case. And they need to understand what they're about to embark on before they go just jumping in, filing something, and then things go south real quick.
Okay, and we'll keep talking with you guys in a minute. Not to throw you a direct shot, Knox, but let's go to you for a second. You've gone through divorce, so did you have to learn stuff beforehand? Did you know stuff beforehand? Kind of give me your experience of what you went through.
Well, I wish I had known about Ashmore before. I certainly have learned about him after because I'm now a client, and they're certainly helping me out because we started out amicably. We got it done, and then it's just gone south afterwards. So, it's still a learning process for me. Amy gets calls from me every now and then going, what the heck am I supposed to do now? And, she helps walk me off the cliff, and Gary's, more than held my hand as we go back and try to clear up some things that we didn't get straightened out the first time.
Okay, so would it have helped to know this stuff in advance, and would you give that advice to people that are thinking about it?
Definitely give the advice, because if you don't have it buttoned up and I's dotted and T's crossed the first time, it's going to cost you later. So you may think you're getting it done cheap, which is the route I went, and I'm certainly paying for it now because I didn't have a good law firm behind me the first go-round.
Well, that was nice. That's nice of you to say that. We appreciate that. Okay, so let's now go back to y'all. So another question people have is, how long is this going to take? What's the fastest time you can get this completed in the state of Texas?
There's a 60-day waiting period from the time that you file the petition for divorce before you can actually go prove it up. So the soonest you could do it is on the 61st day after filing that divorce petition. Can you prove up the divorce in front of a judge and him sign a final decree divorcing the two people?
And do you have to be a Texas resident to do this? Go through that situation.
Yes, you have to be a Texas resident for the preceding 6 months prior to filing for the divorce petition, and you have to be a resident of the county that you're in Texas for 90 days.
Okay. Do you have to have a judge decide this, or can you do this on your own?
A judge decide what? You can file a petition on your own, and you can actually prepare a decree on your own. There are some good forms out there, but there are also some bad forms out there.
Okay.
So I would recommend that you talk to a lawyer and at least get some advice.
And this is kind of interesting to me. You can actually go to court hearing with only one person there.
Mm-hmm.
Explain that.
Yep, if both parties, if they sign off on the final decree of divorce and all of its terms, only one party, only one spouse is required to prove. It's called a prove-up hearing. And they just need one spouse to attend the hearing for the judge to grant the divorce. So both parties do not have to attend.
Okay. When people talk about Texas as a community property state, what are we talking about?
Well, community property state means that from the time that you're married, anything that you accumulate, either income, any type of property, anything you purchase,
your retirement,
you own 50-50 with that other party.
Regardless of whose name it's in. You go out and purchase a car in your own name, doesn't matter. Your spouse, I mean, it doesn't matter whose name the debt or the asset is in. It's still both parties.
Now, in a decree of divorce, a wife, can she change her name to the previously used name?
She sure can, and we highly recommend it if you're contemplating, because a lot of people don't know, they're not sure, you know, if they have children, it's their children's last name as well. But what we tell them is if you're going to do it now, because it's kind of your do it for free time. Because if you were to try to go back and change your name later on after your divorce is final, it's going to cost you. So
really?
This is your opportunity for the court to change your name to a previous name, or you'll have to pay for it if you decide to do it later.
Do most people just go ahead and keep the name, or what do you typically see?
It's 50-50, really. I'm surprised on it sometimes. There's not really any rhyme or reason to it, but a lot of times people with children, they keep the name because it's their children's name. Sometimes they don't. Others just don't want to go through the hassle of going through and, you know, depending on how long they've been married, going through and changing everything and trying to get known by another name. So.
Gotcha. Okay, we're about to do a fun segment. Oh, I should never say fun and divorce. Let's rephrase it. We're about to do another segment. It's called Myth and Fact. I think this is very interesting. But before we get into that, Knox, do you have any other questions for them while we're talking about what you need to know before divorce and the fact that you've been through it? Do you think there's questions out there that you probably would have asked if you had known about this?
Yeah, you know, when you go into everything, right, you think you're going to get married once, then you think you're never going to get divorced, and then you get divorced, you think there's so many things you don't know. So, you know, the fact that, you know, the Ashmore firm is giving you advice of, okay, well, you haven't thought about this, and you think it's going to go this way now. Here, they've got the experience, right? I didn't have the experience going through it when I got divorced, so I need to find a partner, you know, to represent me to make sure that there aren't things that I'll trip over or stumble upon along the way. Because they've done it, you know, dozens or hundreds of times as a firm. I've done it once, and it didn't go well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that what you're saying, that's a good point. People that typically get divorced, hopefully it's one or it's not multiple divorces, 5 times. But one divorce is a very inexperienced process. They've been through hundreds. So I like that. Been through the grind.
Yeah, the other comment I would make is, you know, there are really like 3, you know, catastrophic events that happen in someone's lives. One is a death in the family. Another, you know, and Lori takes care of that with wills and stuff. So, you know, that's interesting. You know, the second is being laid off. Okay, well, you know, or fired from a job or losing a job. And the third is divorce. So, you know, out of the 3 critical areas in life, here's a group of people that are, you know, easy to work with and can help you, you know, through those tough times.
Yeah, and it is good to have a partner. It's good to have, you know, someone on your side that understands. A lot of times people will turn to family and friends, and if they've gone through it before, It's great for their moral support, but their situation's not always the same as your situation. And
Right.
you really need someone who can look at your individual situation and assess it properly and decide the best, route for you, not necessarily what your friend did or what your parents did or that.
Sometimes that word of mouth advice is not very good. Well, I heard. Well, where did you hear it? I read it on the internet. Well, that's not always true.
Well, that leads me into the next thing, folks. Anybody watching this, hey, always remember, you can go to the Ashmore Law Firm website. They've got free information. They also have books. You can come by their office here in Dallas off of Maple, and they've got brochures, and it's all free. And y'all are just basically giving out this information. You even have a free book called Childless and Loveless, What You Need to Know About Divorce in Texas. So, and y'all are all offering this for free. Why do you do it, Gary?
Okay, well, hold on. I'm showing you a picture of the book so you can see what that is.
Man, that couple looks, yeah, they're not holding hands. That is a bad situation there.
Let me also bring this up because
Hey, at least they were on the same sofa still,
The book was written with the layperson in mind. It's written in simple English so that people understand the process without all the legal terminology. One of the things that we hear a lot of that people are not aware of is we recommend that before filing for divorce, you review your beneficiary designations on your financial documents. Because once you file for divorce, you're not going to be able to make those changes until after the divorce is final, and we've had clients where that has been a problem. Also, you need to review your will and your estate plan. I would recommend prior to filing for divorce, and again, people are not aware of this until after they've filed, and now all of a sudden they're thinking, well, where am I leaving this, and what am I doing with that, and who's getting my bank accounts, and who are my beneficiaries on my life insurance policies, and it really gets into a lot of that people aren't aware of because they just think all I need to do is file for divorce. So the book kind of lays out what the process is going to be like, what you can expect and anticipate, and some of the things you need to think about before you go just walking down to the courthouse and filing for divorce.
And we've mentioned this before, but I want to re-emphasize this. Why do you give? Lawyers never give away stuff for free. Why do you do it?
Well, we believe the biggest disadvantage to clients is not being educated on what they're about to step into. Nobody wants to be in a legal battle. Nobody should be down at the courthouse. And if you don't understand what you're about to do and you're relying solely on your attorney and your family and friends for support, I just think you're doing yourself an injustice. You've got to be educated on what it is you're about to do.
Okay. Before we go on to myth versus fact, Lori Ashmore Peters I asked her if she had a question. She says, I don't have a question, I have a statement. Typical attorney. Statement time.
Absolutely, Chris. The only thing I do want to state is you really have to make sure that you meet with an attorney and you really understand everything Gary's talked about, because we've even had instances where during the pendency of the divorce, the wife or the husband dies. And if you don't have all of your ducks in a row, that can create a lot of problems.
Wow. That's two of the three bad things that happen in one situation that Knox was talking about.
Absolutely.
Man, that's terrible. Okay.
Death, or even if, we've had some where there's been a car accident or for some reason one of the spouses becomes incapacitated and the divorce is not final.
Wow. And that's rare, but it can happen. Like you said, it has happened before. Wow. Okay, let's do it now. Myth and fact. Myth. I will easily get 50% of the marital property in my divorce. Is that true?
That is not true. The fact is you will not automatically receive more than 50% of the marital property. There's many factors that are taken into consideration when splitting assets.
Next one, number 2 myth. My spouse will have to pay for our children's college. That's a myth. What's the fact?
The fact is the spouse does not have to pay for a child's college. They are only on the hook for the child until the child turns 18. Or until they have graduated high school, whichever is later. So that is a big myth.
All right, these are fun. Myth: I purchased property in my name only during the marriage. Therefore, that property belongs solely to me. I think that should be a fact. I think it should be, but it's not.
That's such a myth. Kind of what we discussed earlier. Texas is a community property state, so just because you acquired property solely in your name does not mean that it's off limits to your spouse. It's community property.
Wow. Myth: we were married for over 10 years, so I should have received spousal support alimony for the rest of my life.
We are not an alimony state. However, Texas does provide spousal maintenance for those individuals that have been married 10 years or more. It is not for your lifetime. It is set out in the code that depending on how many years you have been married, you are entitled to spousal maintenance up to several years, possibly, but it's the discretion of the court and it's the needs of the parties.
Okay, go with that discretion of the court. So myth: I'll get a much better deal if I let the judge do it.
Everybody wants their day in court, but I can promise you, you don't. The judge is going to split the property based on what he considers or she considers fair and equitable, but that doesn't mean that you will think it's fair. And I'm telling you, you're better off, deciding amongst yourselves than letting a judge decide.
Wow, it's almost better to roll the dice, play a dice game. All right, myth: my spouse cheated on me, so I should get everything I want in a divorce.
How many times have we heard that one,
Well,
Gary?
we hear that all the time. Texas is a no-fault state, which means there is no reason that you have to get a divorce. The court can take into consideration the fact that one of the spouses cheated. However, it does not mean that you will get everything.
Wow.
And unfortunately, in this day and age, with that being kind of a common factor, as years go by, I believe it plays less and less of a role in divorce.
Man, those are some interesting ones, some interesting myths, and I like the fact point. Anybody else have any fun myths? Knox, do you know of any myths that you heard beforehand or that you thought were true that didn't come true?
There's a whole bunch of things my ex-wife has told me in the last few months that are absolutely not true.
And they're all myth?
Well, according to Gary and Amy, they're not true at all. They're all myth.
There's been a lot of myth busting lately.
Yeah. So, Amy almost laughs at me like, "You're not believing that, are you?" When she tells me she's an attorney, she's harassing me. She's like, "Don't believe her. We got you."
That's another good point. Make sure you get an attorney that specializes in family law.
That's true.
So,
what if you're not an attorney and your other person is an attorney that you're divorcing? They will try and trick you, so be careful.
right.
that is true advice. Yeah. Let me tell you how dumb I was.
Well, this was a great hangout. Y'all can always, once again, get information at the Ashmore Law Firm website. Come by their offices. Give them a phone call. Our next hangout, by the way, look at this. We lead into the next one. We told you what to do before divorce. Now, next hangout, July 30th, same time at noon Central, what to do after divorce. So, Knox, you're welcome to come back on that one as well.
I'm going to take that one too.
Okay. Everybody, thank you for joining the Google Hangout. And once again, you can keep the conversation alive by the hashtag AskAshmore, and we'll try and get those answers back to you. Thanks, everyone, for watching.
All right.
Thanks, Chris. Bye-bye.
Bye.